Data validation covered in earlier courses allows you to monitor what is typed in, and if it's incorrect, then Excel will reject it. On this particular course, we're going to be looking at more advanced uses of the data validation and combo boxes. We have here two columns. We have this one called vehicle make, and we want to create a drop-down combo box that displays the make of vehicle, such as Ford, BMW, Audi. In the column next to it, we have the model, and what we want here is a selective combo box. And what we mean by that is if in the first column somebody selects Ford, then we only want to see the Ford model cars in the combo box in this column. So first of all, we need to do some setting up, and we're going to use a facility called range names. Again, this was covered in an earlier course. If you look at the sheets at the bottom, we've got a sheet called data sheet. Now this contains the data that we require to populate our combo boxes. Now the first thing we'll do is we'll create a combo box for the make of vehicle. Now we're going to demonstrate on this one how we can make it dynamic. In other words, if we add more vehicle makes, we want it to automatically feed those to our combo box. Now normally to set up a named range, we would highlight the information we want in the name, and we would type in this box up here, which is called the name box, the name of the range. Now that will be a static named range. What we want is a dynamic one, and we could take advantage of the built-in table facility in Excel. And to do that, we click anywhere in the data area that we want the table to be made from. On your home ribbon, we have a button called Format as Table. Now when you click on this button, it will drop down various formats. Now we're not too concerned about the formatting because we won't be seeing this table on this sheet. So we can choose any one of these. We get a box up that basically checks the range, and you'll notice it selects all of the range, and it asks if we have headers, which we do. We have in A1 our header. So we leave that ticked. We click OK, and that has now created a dynamic named range. Let me demonstrate this. We now have in the name box something called table 1. Now we actually want to rename this. To rename this, we go onto the formulas ribbon. We go to the button in the middle called Name Manager. And you can see there is the dynamic range that's been set up for us. I want to rename it, so I can either double click on the name or choose Edit. You can see it brings up the Edit Name dialog box, and we can rename this. And we'll call this one Make, as it's the make of vehicle. Remember, when you're naming ranges, they can't have spaces in the name, and they can't begin with a number. Click OK. We've now named that. Close this. So we're going to set up on our data validation sheet in this column here a combo box that's based on that named range. You highlight the area that you want the validation to be applied to. We then go to the data ribbon, and you'll see there's a button called Data Validation. Click on that. It brings up the dialog box that we require, and the first part says allow any value. We're going to choose allow list, and in the source, now if you're working on 2013 and prior to that version, then you type equals and the name of the range In our case, it was called make. However, we're working in 365, which means that we need to make an indirect call on that. So we use a function word called indirect, open bracket, and then in speech marks we type the name of the range, make, close speech mark, close bracket. Click OK. You will now see that we've created a combo box that displays the content of that named range. So we can choose a particular make of vehicle just from the drop down. Now of course this is still a validation, so if somebody attempts to type a name of a vehicle that we don't actually have, validation will reject it. If we look at the drop down combo, you can see the 3 makes of vehicles. This is based on a dynamic named range. So if we go back to the data sheet, if I add another vehicle make there, VW, if we then come back here, you'll notice that immediately it includes that. And that would work throughout the entire book. So there's a dynamic named range. The second part of this is where we want a similar combo box here that based on what's in the first column, if it's a Ford, then only show Ford models. If it's a BMW, show the BMW models. So for this one, we have to begin by setting up some named ranges. Now you'll notice we got the models here. Now we're going to set these up not as dynamic ranges, so we'll do these as just a straightforward range name. So I know that Focus, Fiesta and Mondeo are Ford vehicles. So you begin by highlighting what you want to appear in the drop down. Once you've highlighted that, we then click in the name box and the name we give that range is Ford. It has to be called Ford. And whatever you type in this name box must match exactly what's in the first combo box. Now remember, range names are not case sensitive, so you don't have to worry about capital letters and lowercase. We press enter. We do the same for the BMW models. I'm going to highlight these 4 cells and type BMW as a named range. And finally the Audi models, and we'll type Audi. Enter that. So whenever you're setting up these types of combo boxes, the ranges must be spelt exactly as the names appear in the first combo box. Now that we've done that, we can go back to our data validation, highlight the cells where we want this combo box, click on data validation, and what we're going to write in here, we want to allow a list as we did before, and then in the source we're going to type equals, and we're going to use the indirect, and what we're actually looking for is what's in this cell next to me, the first one. Remember, we don't worry about all the others, we're just interested in the first one of the highlighted range. So we basically want to say, can you look at what's written in this cell next to me? So if we say indirect, now this is what you would write on all versions of Excel. Indirect, open bracket, and then we put E4. So we're putting E4 because I want it to look at what's in that cell next to me, cell E4. I close the bracket, click OK. If we now take a look at what's in this combo box, you'll notice because I have the Ford here, it's showing me just the Ford vehicles. If I was to change this to BMW, you'll notice it now displays just the BMWs. And if I was to change it to Audi, it would show the Audi vehicles. Now the method we've used here is a very simplistic way of creating these combo boxes that are daisy chained together. Of course, a more efficient way of writing this would be using VBA, Visual Basic. But if you don't want to get involved in any programming, you want to use just the facilities that are built into the front end of Excel, then that is the way to create these combo boxes.